Just a day after the unparliamentary list of words was released by the Parliament Secretariat, there is now a new controversy. A circular released by the Rajya Sabha Secretariat suggests that there should be no protests or havan or dharna inside the Parliament complex. The opposition is naturally up in arms. The government side says there is nothing new in this provision. Which side does the truth lie?
Just a day after the Parliament released a list of new words that have been termed unparliamentary, today a circular was released by the Rajya Sabha Secretariat that banned holding demonstrations, dharnas, fast or religious ceremonies in the precincts of Parliament House. This bulletin was issued by Rajya Sabha Secretary General PC Modi and requested the parliamentarians to cooperate. Within no time, a political war of words erupted, with the Congress launching an all-out attack on the centre, questioning the move and calling it undemocratic. Other opposition parties soon joined the ranks, calling the circular an assault on the right to protest.
We declared that there will be no democracy in this country. Have we suspended our civil rights? Have we suspended the right of the opposition to raise issues that matter?
BJP, meanwhile, was quick to call out Congress and showed similar circulars that were issued in 2009 and 2014 under the UPA government.
The same routine notices have been issued by Parliament House Security Office year after year, session after session. This shows a bankruptcy of ideas, of real issues to bring to Parliament, and an attempt to hold Parliament to ransom and to divert, deviate and to demolish any kind of discussion that can take place on real issues.
Lok Sabha Speaker Om Birla also waded into the controversy, stating that this practice has been there since 2009 and the opposition should check the facts before making such statements.
ये एक प्रक्रिया है और ये प्रक्रिया लंबे समय तक चल रही है और आप सबको जानकारी है कि 2009 से ये प्रक्रिया चल रही है। उसके पहले भी ये प्रक्रिया चल रही थी, उसके सबके सर्कुलर जारी कर दिए।
With the opposition first creating a furore over expunging of unparliamentary words yesterday, and now outraging over a ban on dharna and demonstrations inside the parliamentary premises, the big question remains: why oppose the move to uphold dignity of the parliament in the name of censoring?
Right, on the talking point this evening, Dr. Sudhanshu Trivedi of the BJP will be joining us, Amitabh Dubey, spokesperson of the Congress, Smita Prakash, editor ANI, Rashid Kidwai, author, and Dr. Shashi Panja, Bengal minister, joining us. Let me start with Amitabh Dubey, because this is very similar to the notifications that were issued in 2009 and 2014. So why are you barking up the wrong tree, as it were?
So Zaka, at one level, it's amusing that the kinds of words that many Indians would use to describe this government, Jumla Jivi, COVID spreader, Tanashahi, Notanki, are being considered unparliamentary. But on a more serious level, the issue is that these kinds of things, the ban on dharna and so on, they should be seen in the larger context as part of a very disturbing clampdown on dissent and free expression that's been happening in recent years. We've fallen in the World Freedom Index to 150. We're 119th on the Human Freedom Index, and a very respected global think tank now describes us as an electoral autocracy rather than an electoral democracy. Now, if you look at the proceedings of parliaments, there are many instances over the years of Congress leaders not being allowed to speak, having their mics switched off. From 2014 to 2021, there are many cases, TV cameras being switched off. You will recall that in December 2020, Shri Rahul Gandhi was prevented from speaking at the Parliamentary Standing Committee on Defense on the crisis in Eastern Ladakh, on the Chinese aggression. And the chairman of the committee, who was from the BJP, said, "Aapko bolne nahi denge," and wanted to have a discussion on ceremonial army uniforms.
No, but Mr. Dubey, the fact of the matter is, no matter how much of an opposition you have to this government and this party, the ruling party, seems to win election after election. And whether you like it or not, they are using that as validation of their policies, as validation of, whatever they believe in, whatever the prescribed policies of this government are.
Zaka, the role of parliament is not to enable a brute majority to function untrammeled. The role of parliament is to create an institution where a structured discussion and debate happens. There are very clear rules about this. Whoever has a majority, they have to stick to the institutional rules which are put in there by the Constitution of India. What we've seen in the last few years is bills being rammed through by brute majority with no discussion, no reference to standing committee. The percentage of bills that are being discussed in committee has gone down from 60-70% during the UPA to around 20% under this government.
Okay.
And Parliament is not a Delhi ki Sultanate forum to applaud what the Sultan says. You have to have deliberation, you have to do discussion. And whenever you actually allow a high quality of the debate to happen, you see what a high quality of debate is there from all sides of the
Let me ask Dr. Sudhanshu Trivedi of the BJP. He's now joining us. Dr. Sudhanshu Trivedi, कांग्रेस का मानना ये है कि आप लोगों ने मतलब अनपार्लियामेंट्री वर्ड्स में काफ़ी सारी चीज़ें डाल दिए, बट बियॉन्ड दैट न अभी धरना नहीं हो सकता, हवन नहीं हो सकता, कुछ भी नहीं हो सकता इन पार्लियामेंट. You're basically, the opposition is reduced to, talking heads and nodding heads, everything in agreement with the government. बताइए.
Now it is a very well-known established fact that this, the book of unparliamentary languages or words, it has been issued since 1954. And it uses to come up after a certain gap of years. From 2010 onwards, it comes every year. It is nothing but a compilation of data in which all the state assemblies and the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha and even the Commonwealth parliaments, whosoever have suggested that at one point of the time or the other point of time, it has got as unparliamentary. I would like to give an example. Bankruptcy was unparliamentary, but the insolvency and bankruptcy code had come. It is illogical that you are saying that it has been banned. ये तो 2009 में कम्युनल बैन कर दिया था. कम्युनल वायलेंस पे 2020 में दिल्ली की कम्युनल वायलेंस पे डिस्कशन हुआ. It means कांग्रेस which has been totally out of any issue, तो कभी शेरों के मुंह में नजर आता है, आक्रामकता उनको ज्यादा नजर आती है और उनके बयानों में व्यर्थ की आक्रामकता ज्यादा नजर आने लगती है. Abhi, my friend from Congress party, Mr. Amitabh Dubey, was saying that Rahul Gandhi ji was prevented in the Standing Committee of Parliament, though these things which were discussed in the Standing Committee of Defence should not be divulged outside. But I am the member of the Defence Committee. And I am saying what exactly happened. When Rahul Gandhi ji has raised the issues, he was allowed, then he keep on asking questions. Then the chairman said, राहुल गांधी जी आप वैसे तो आते नहीं है मीटिंग में, जब भी आते हैं तो कुछ प्रॉब्लम क्रिएट कर देते हैं, क्योंकि प्रीवियसली दैट अराउंड 2 years he had not attended the meetings. Okay. When the issue was raised in the parliament, and then the issue was raised, and second thing he said कि ये जो एजेंडा होता है, it is decided in the meeting in which your members were also present. If you want to alter the agenda, you go through the process. In the meeting, for this meeting, the agenda is already circulated. You cannot come in the meeting and say the agenda should be changed. So, what I am trying to say, Congress is in a habit of unnecessary creating an issue out of a non-issue, so is reflecting in the issue of this unparliamentary. Okay. And as far as this is concerned, it's an established fact.
Sudhanshu, with your permission,
in every parliament session.
Fair enough. Let me go across to Smita Prakash. What the BJP is saying is that this list of unparliamentary words has been a work in progress since 1959. There's nothing new about it. Yes, you could quibble about the fact that words like, Tanashahi and Jumla Jivi and all that have been included this time around. That's a matter of debate. But the real issue is the opposition is saying that anything that is critical of this government is being put in the unparliamentary words list. Therefore, it can't be brought up in parliament. So basically, all the MPs are just going to nod their heads for whatever good this government has done.
Well, good or bad is a subjective thing that you will see, right? I mean, the opposition doesn't see it as good. So there is this whole narrative that democracy is dead, it is being stifled in the country, that, there are no press interactions that the party has and that the leadership has. This is the narrative that the opposition, especially the Congress, has been peddling. Now, for this narrative, it needs constant refueling. Therefore, those who wish to peddle this narrative will pick on anything, whether it is something like the trivia about the teeth of the lions, the frown, the tail, the mustache of the lion, or else this latest brouhaha over the words. Now, you yourself have said, and I think Sudhanshu ji also gave a whole list as to whether this is this is something new and it's been there for a long time. I think even the Congress now today has not picked it up, nor has the opposition, about the words so much. Their problem now is about the Dharna aspect which you said, that the Parliament's new directive. So day before was the lion, yesterday was the words, and today it is about Dharna. So all this is the same narrative, that this is all against democracy. Day before yesterday, it was that we were not invited for that ceremony. Yesterday was that words are being taken away. Today it is that we are not being allowed to have a Dharna demonstrations in the presence of the Parliament. Now it was the directive that today, which was brought out, has been brought out in 2009 also. So I can well understand the opposition getting angered over this also, but there are places, and just half a kilometer away from the Parliament is the place where Dharna is always allowed to happen. Now you can do it out there, or you can do it under the Mahatma Gandhi statue and then oppose the and of course this is not the BJP, mind you. This entire area is governed by the Speaker and the House. So they are the ones who will take action. So they will be taken out, hauled away. It makes good television, it makes good publicity, and the narrative that democracy is being stifled.
No, but I want to ask Rashid Kidwai, the fact of the matter is that for a number of years now, the place for protest has been Jantar Mantar. Why should the opposition oppose the fact that the government is not allowing them to protest, whether it's in Parliament, whether it's in other parts of Delhi? Because the designated place for protest is in Jantar Mantar. That's number one. Number two, the point that Smita Prakash is making is, one day it's about how big the mouth of the lions is. The next day it's about unparliamentary words. The third day it's about Dharna and Havan. The fact is, the opposition is simply running out of issues to corner this government on.
Not really, Zaka. Zaka, I think there is a total, utter, trust deficit that exists between the ruling party and the opposition. The ruling party, somehow there is a perception as if you see the Parliament, just because they're a ruling party or ruling coalition, and the entire Parliament belongs to them. A Parliament is a forum that's available to each and every MP, and they're entitled to do whatever good, bad, ugly, they're entitled to do so, and it's being done for all the time when the BJP was in opposition. So now there is because of this, the political differences have become from Matbhed to Manbhed. So there is a lot of bitterness that is there. The opposition feels, it may sound petty, but opposition thinks that, as you have narrated all the incidents, that see, they are not being called when there is something about Parliament House building, just because the opposition has been opposing Central Vista project. They are not invited for this kind of
no, Rashid, one second. They were invited in December when the Bhumi Pujan of the Central Secretariat and the new Parliament building was happening. 15 opposition parties, including TMC and Congress, decided to boycott. What can you do about that?
That is what I'm saying. You look at, this is exactly the thing. Just because you called me in December and I didn't show up, or I boycotted. So in March and in May and in July, you will keep boycotting me and you will not invite. I mean, this is school-going children kind of behavior.
Okay. Dr. Trivedi, please respond. Just because they boycotted in December, ये नहीं मानना कि मतलब वो जुलाई में नहीं आएंगे. Please respond, then I go to Dr. Shashi Panja after that, please. Yes.
No, second thing. I would like to say there are two major events in any building or any construction. One is a Bhumi Pujan, another is a Greh Pravesh.
Yeah.
So Bhumi Pujan is there when it will be the formal inauguration. Everybody will be. अब ये आप कहें कि साहब वो एक अशोक स्तंभ लगा था, फिर आप कहें जी वो एक दूसरा नया द्वार खड़ा हुआ था, वहां पे नहीं बुलाया गया. And as far as the childish behavior and other is concerned, Rashid ji, I would like to remind, when the Farmers Act have come, entire session of Parliament was not allowed. On which issue? We were saying have discussion. They said no discussion. It is to be withdrawn immediately. When the Prime Minister announced the withdrawal, then the Parliament was installed. Then why it is being withdrawn without discussion? गजब है साहब. हम लोगों ने कहा, आप ही कह रहे थे कि बगैर डिस्कशन के विड्रॉ होना चाहिए, कोई डिस्कशन नहीं. अब जो हमने भी कहा विड्रॉ होना चाहिए, तो अब आप कह रहे नहीं, अब डिस्कशन होना चाहिए. दिस शोज कि आपको प्रॉब्लम क्या है. जिसे हिंदी भाषी क्षेत्रों में कहावत होती है कि पानी पीना नहीं है, गिराना है. आप पी ना पाओ तो ढरका दो. You do not want to drink the water, you want to split the water on the table on one pretext or the other.
Okay, let me go to Dr. Shashi Panja. The fact of the matter is, Dr. Panja, that Whether it is for the inauguration, I mean, the national emblem that was atop the new parliament building, where you had the urban development minister, you had the leaders of the presiding officers of the two houses, speaker, deputy chairperson of the Rajya Sabha. That is a separate matter. The question that's being asked is, this was a list of unparliamentary words that was done in 2009. It was updated in 2013-14, and now it's further continuing to be updated by the Lok Sabha Secretariat. Why should the opposition suddenly have a problem with what is seen as a routine updation of that list of unparliamentary words?
Zaka, finally the bulldozer has arrived in Parliament House complex. It was the prerogative of the speakers of both houses. Well, there were rules of procedure. There is Rule 380. It was his prerogative, or his or her, to expunge if anything was objectionable. You see, even the powers of the speaker somehow, or the prudence, could not be relied upon by as per the current circular. So there are certain words. Tell me, Zaka, are they very malignant? Aren't they very innocuous? Say something like ashamed, foolish, or something like, say, corrupt, childishness. Is it very malignant? And imagine a word like sexual harassment, which is so very important. Even that is banned in Parliament. Now, that cannot be used. And let us get a very clarity on it. Because here there is a compilation that these are unparliamentary. And we heard Speaker of the Lok Sabha himself saying, "नहीं ये तो निकाले हैं, आपको जो कहना आप कहिए, मैं तो इसको expunge करूँगे या रखूँगा, ये तो मुझे तय करना है." So there is another confusion about it. And of course, looking at the patronizing attitude of the speakers who are representing BJP, I mean, we have allowed you this, so why not? Why are you grumbling today? Is this issue? Yesterday that was that issue. Why do you come up with so many controversies?
Okay.
And Zaka, just one final point. In the monsoon sessions, due to some kind of protests within the House, certain MPs were suspended and maybe later on expelled or whatever.
Okay.
So they went outside. So now you are getting rid of those presents. You cannot go and protest outside near Mahatma Gandhi's statue. So where do you go? You go right outside to Jantar Mantar. I mean, is this the solution? What are we trying to shy away from?
Okay.
There are so many issues of the country which have to be discussed.
Words like ashamed, foolish, arrogant, sexual harassment, ये सब तो निजी वर्ड्स है. इसको बैन करने में क्या मतलब है, डॉक्टर त्रिवेदी? बताइए.
That's what I am saying. What Dr. Shashi Panja was saying, it's not confusion, man. It is deceitful act. Because it's not banned by Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. It's not banned, number one. It is being just compilation of data by not Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. It's by all the 29 state assemblies. अब मैं बोलता हूं, ये घड़ियाली आंसू छत्तीसगढ़ के ने किया है. अब आप ये बताइए, अपमान वर्ड, it is being by Punjab assembly. अब if you will not say अपमान, अगर आप ये कहेंगे दुर्व्यवहार,
Dr. Panja, please, let him finish. After that, you can ask him a question. Valid, absolutely valid. Your question is valid. But after he finishes, Dr. Trivedi, khatam kijiye, please. Yeah.
The question is that this has been a reference of various words which is being expunged by persons, by the speakers of the Peethasin Adhikari or the chairpersons of the various state assemblies. One more thing, जो भी यहाँ बैठे हुए हैं सबको पता है, if anybody speaks in the house, मैं भी बोलता हूँ, next day my speech comes to me and it is asked that if you want any alteration, I want with due humility, मैडम, फ्रॉम योर पार्टी और एनीबडी एल्सेस पार्टी, ये सारे विधानसभाओं से जब हटाए गए लोकसभा से, हाउ मेनी एमपीज और एमएलएज हैव प्रोटेस्टेड?
ओके,
give me the list.
Let me ask. Okay, Dr. Panja, what is the question that you have for the ruling party, the ruling dispensation? You are saying that these words are part of Tanashahi, this, that, and all that. But fact is that these words have been updated from 2009. What's new about it?
You see, there are parliamentary procedures which says that any person who's speaking within parliament, you should not be, you should not personally attack somebody. There should be not defamatory statements, indecent, undignified. It's there. The rules were there.
Okay.
Now tell me why sexual harassment cannot be mentioned. You tell me, Sudhanshu Trivedi ji, these words were done or compiled after due consultation without state legislatures. I myself belong to the West Bengal state legislature. So it is not, you are scared. What we are trying to say is that you are not going to allow anything. And this is also unparliamentary. Speaking truth is going to be unparliamentary. I mean, how there are so many issues that
Dr. Trivedi, Dr. Trivedi, jawab dijiye.
Speaking.
Yeah, let Dr. Trivedi respond. Yeah.
Madam, don't try to mislead the people. Again, I am saying,
Who's
Adivasi
misleading?
word has been
Who's
banned by
misleading?
Rajasthan. It doesn't mean the tribal
sexual
word
harassment.
One at a time,
Sexual
Dr. Panja.
harassment
Dr. Panja,
is
please, please.
No,
Let Dr.
he
Trivedi
cannot-
finish.
no.
Please, please, I request you. Dr. Trivedi, yeah. One at a time.
I'm just saying, I'm saying that these are the words which has been expunged or one time or the other by any of the state assembly, like Adivasi word. Now the tribal act is there and the Adivasi word has been expunged by Rajasthan assembly. It doesn't mean that it cannot be used. I have used during the Congress time, the bankrupt word was banned, but the bankruptcy court came in our time. The communal word was banned, but communal violence discussion happened in time. It means, that's why I'm saying, please do not mislead the country that this is a ban and these words cannot be used. Otherwise, it is having a book of more than 1200 pages. And if one page has even 50 or 100 words, it is around 12,000 words. Then 12,000 words are not used. It is just a reference and compilation of data and it comes in the reference. For example, I would like to say, a Samvedansheel word.
No, he cannot go on and on.
Insensitivity has also been banned. But it comes in context. Like if you say the government is insensitive, it will not be expunged. But if you say that the chair is insensitive, it may be expunged. So it always comes in the context. So that's why the reference point is there, and from all 29 assemblies as well as 2 houses as well as the Commonwealth countries, just a compilation of data.
So
no ban,
Amitabh Dubey,
no
the fact is that this has come from state assemblies, this has come from different quarters. It's not just, the Lok Sabha Secretariat or the Rajya Sabha Secretariat coming up with these words. And the fact is also, like Dr. Trivedi pointed out, a word like insensitive, for example, it's not banned. But if you say the chair is being insensitive, that may be banned, that may be expunged. But if you say the government is being insensitive, that may not necessarily be expunged.
Zaka, there's been a disturbing tendency in recent years. It is true that speakers have some leeway in interpreting whether a word has been used in an unparliamentary way or not. But in recent years, there has been a tendency to strike off words regardless of context. And that, in my view, is a reduction of the space for free expression in Parliament. In many of the examples that some of the panelists have given, I feel there's a bit of a trivializing this issue into a Congress versus BJP issue. When you talk about the national emblem, it's not a bunch of people just acting up. There are serious issues to do with separation of powers. Parliament doesn't belong to Congress or BJP. Parliament belongs to the people of India, and the Constitution says the powers have to be separated. So when the Prime Minister takes over a ritual ceremony with the Speaker perhaps sitting behind him, it does raise questions. Just as under Prime Minister Modi, the Gujarat Vidhan Sabha was reduced to becoming a figurehead, the concern is that bit by bit, the Indian Parliament is losing its autonomy and losing its space as a forum of deliberation on behalf of the
point
Indian
that's being
people.
asked
And
is,
that is the concern.
today there's this circular about no Havans, no Dharnas, no protests. But just 3 days back, we had a Havan with the Prime Minister leading the ceremony for the new emblem on top the new Parliament complex. So, I mean, this can't be like 3 days ago you had a Havan and now there's a circular saying no more Havan.
Yeah, it does seem a little odd. On the words which the TMC spokesperson was talking about, I think this banning, expunging, some politicians are either unaware or deliberately quibbling. The Speaker has clarified that expunging will happen only when used in conjunction with other expressions that may be objectionable, and that's the discretion of the Speaker. Another point I want to make is that, what Rashid had said, I rarely disagree with him, but here he said that good, bad, ugly, everything should be allowed in Parliament. Now, what we have been witnessing, I agree about the religion aspect, about the puja aspect that you mentioned, but that is the tradition that has happened. Even in the constitution, you will see, if you pick up the book, you will see that there are symbols of a particular religion. Similarly, inauguration, whether you want to see that as a religious ceremony or as a cultural ceremony, that also can have an interpretation. Now, back to what Rashid was saying about good, bad and ugly. Our elected representatives, they have a number of privileges, Zaka. That's been bestowed to them by the constitution, and with that comes responsibility to conduct themselves with decorum. And increasingly we have seen that what we are seeing in parliament and in state legislatures, I might say, that there is nothing called decorum anymore. They jump on tables, they pull each other down, they shove each other, they move menacingly towards the chair. So that is the reason I feel that there needs to be some kind of an understanding, maybe an all-party meeting, to say that we need to conduct ourselves because of a few bad apples. I think today, if anybody goes to say we are member of parliament, the question most kids will ask is, how many times did you jump on the table? So good, bad and ugly, one is only seeing bad and ugly these
So
days.
Rashid, I'll give you the final word. The fact of the matter is that parliamentarians themselves are to blame. You look at, I think it was 2 sessions ago, where you had members of parliament climbing on top of the table, throwing the rule book at the speaker. I think about a dozen odd MPs had to be suspended, including from the TMC. The question is, if parliamentarians are going to behave like, rank thugs out on the street, then obviously you can't blame the Lok Sabha Secretariat or the Rajya Sabha Secretariat for saying that these words are unparliamentary and will not be recorded.
Zaka, if you look at globally, whether it's Indian Parliament, Tamil Nadu Assembly, Parliament in Korea, in Italy, many places in Japan, we get this kind of, glimpses of unruly behavior. We may object to it, but it's been part and parcel. The problem is that some of us start thinking that, there was no past of before 2014, 15 Lok Sabha were constituted. There were 15 days standoff when Sukram, the telecom scam had happened. The BJP did protest and protest in a way protest should, take place. So, and a lot of times these things were there, but today the position is made to look as if, whatever they do is unreasonable, undemocratic, and perhaps sometimes even anti-national. This kind of, narrative is slightly disturbing.
Okay.
That's the thing.
Okay, we'll leave it at that. Rashid Kidwai, Smita Prakash, Dr. Trivedi, Dr. Panja, and of course, Amitabh Dubey from the Congress. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll see how this plays out in the Parliament session that's going to begin from Monday. Meanwhile, the government has now begun the process of regulation of digital media. Now, the government will start with registration of digital media. Also, the INB ministry will now regulate and monitor all digital media. All digital media will have to now be registered, just like newspapers and television channels. They have to have the registration by the ROC, or the Registrar of Companies. Let me go across to Pallavi Ghosh, who has more details. So, one would say, digital is like this unfillable bucket, a bottomless bucket. You have tens of thousands of digital media websites and so on. How does the government plan to regulate them?
So that's the thing. The reason, basically, very quickly, Zaka, why the government wants to do it, because their complaint is that there are several digital platforms which either under subterfuge or they take convenience, of the fact that they're not registered, to go and put stuff on that social media or on their platform, which is unchecked, which is often not verified. And, they cannot be held accountable. I think accountability is the mantra over here. So here's the thing, what the government plans to do is that just like a newspaper or a television channel has to be registered, your digital platform will also now have to be registered. Registration also essentially means that it can come under scrutiny, monitoring, and therefore has to show a certain amount of accountability. Before this come back to you, one quick example which a government source told me was that, for example, if there's one newspaper or a television channel A, it also has a .com or a digital platform. Very often the content on the digital platform escapes scrutiny or accountability because they are not registered. Whereas a television channel or a newspaper is registered and therefore can be monitored, and the INB ministry can step into it. And that's precisely the only reason why the INB ministry is now going to, through this bill, ensure that accountability.
Okay, Pallavi, we'll leave it to that. We'll see how this plays out. Digital media now being brought under the INB ministry. They will have to have some form of regulation and oversight. Meanwhile, talking about oversight, the other big story that we're tracking, the Congress leader and former Karnataka Chief Minister Siddaramaiah had to face the anger of people in Bagalkot in North Karnataka after he visited victims at hospitals who had sustained injuries because of the recent communal clashes. In a video that's now gone viral, a kin of the victim can be seen as throwing 2 lakh rupees compensation that was given by the CLP leader at his convoy, refusing to accept it. The big question is, will the Netas understand that this era of parachute politics and going to people just ahead of polls is completely over?
ವಾಪಸ್ ಕೂಡ ಅವರಿಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಾಯ್ತಾ, ಇದು ಮಾನವೀಯತೆಯಿಂದ ಕೊಡ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದು. ಅದು ನಾವು ಅವರ ಎಲ್ಲ ಕಷ್ಟಕ್ಕೆಲ್ಲ ಅನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ.
Okay, let me go across to Mohan Krishna, Karnataka BJP leader. Nagaraju Yadav is a Karnataka Congress spokesperson. Mr. Yadav, is the message very clear from the voter of Karnataka that you cannot take him or her for a ride? They don't need money. What they need is accountability from their leaders. A woman throwing back 2 lakh rupees at Congress leader and former Chief Minister Siddaramaiah, that is something that you should take note of.
See, it is not that Congress, the CLP leader has done something wrong. He has done his duty as a public representative. When the incident has happened, he has gone to the victim's place where the two sides of the group's hospital, the persons who are injured have been in hospital, have been attended by Siddaramaiah Saab, and spoke to those people and gave his moral support, saying that the law and order will take its course of action and he wants to stand with the people. But here the issue comes here, why does these things happen when the communal forces come to power? This is what the meant to be spoken. It is not that the self goal of Siddaramaiah what is done. Siddaramaiah is doing his duties, but
no, Mr. Yadav, please explain to our viewers. One second. Yeah. Mr. Yadav, please explain to our viewers. Forget about communal forces in power or otherwise or whatever. Why should a woman who needs this help throw back 2 lakh rupees at Mr. Siddaramaiah's face? Obviously, she's feeling let down. Obviously, she's feeling like the politicians have taken her for a ride.
Of course, what you are saying is right. She feels the government has let them down. She is not happy with 2 lakhs rupees. She is not happy with Siddaramaiah coming convinced. She is not convinced only because the reason she wants justice. She is not able to get justice from the communal forces of the BJP government. That's why she is so upset and saying that this 2 lakhs is not a remedy for me. I want justice.
But
you are living like Hindus and Muslims are living like
brothers and sisters. She is throwing not at the government representative. She is throwing at the former chief minister of your party. Anyway, I want to go across to Mohan Krishna and ask him this very simple question.
The anger,
it's not just Mr. Siddaramaiah. We also have videos of the Bagalkote MLA who is partying in Goa, even as a bulk of the district, Bagalkote, is underwater because of floods.
Yeah.
Mr. Krishna.
I know.
See,
this is the frustration.
Mr. Krishna, Mr. Mohan Krishna, yes. That question is to Mr. Mohan Krishna, please. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, Zaka.
Yes.
This is the resentment of the people, whichever party, with whomever they belong to. But the irony is very simple. Look at the Siddaramaiah's fate today. He is neither a socialist nor a congressman. He tried to be a socialist. He did not succeed. He tried to be a congressman now. He is not getting succeeded. I want uninterrupted 1 minute time. I will explain you the things. Look, Mr. Siddaramaiah has offered help. Look at the audacity of his way in which he has helped. He has gone to help them. What is the justice that lady was asking is $1 million question. The question is that justice. What is the justice? You have instigated Mr. Siddaramaiah. Under his belt, 21 Hindus have been killed in Karnataka. when he was the chief minister. He is a Hindu antagonist, and today he is going and appeasing. This appeasement politics of Siddaramaiah has boomeranged on him today.
No,
What
but
is the real story?
Mr. Krishna, this is something that the government and the government agencies should have done. It's not the job of Mr. Siddaramaiah to be going to people who've been flood affected and giving them money. It's not his job. It's the job of the government.
Let me tell you, Zaka, it is not the flood affected area. I'm sorry for you. This was a communal tension which has happened between two groups there.
Yes.
For them, he went and for help. But their contention today, that lady was screaming only one thing: you stop this, you stop this instigation, you stop this, give me justice. As a MLA of that constituency, he's a MLA of that constituency, Badami constituency,
Sir,
the Kerur village.
Sir, can I ask you a simple question? What is the justification that the people of Bagalkote, whose MLA is partying in Goa, and we are showing those pictures, he's not a Congress MLA, he's a BJP MLA. What is the justification that he is partying in a swimming pool in Goa while his district is under flood water?
Zaka,
What is the justification, sir?
Categorically, I am telling the resentment which people have showed to Siddaramaiah. If Mr. Sidhu Savadi, MLA of that place, Terdal, is going to be shown the place if he has done a mistake, and we are not going to come in between. This is not a government-sponsored program.
Okay.
He has gone on his own with his people. For that, people will give the verdict.
Okay. Let me ask Mr. Nagaraju Yadav. The fact is that Rahul Gandhi, no less, had said we should have unity between the DK Shiv Kumar faction, the Siddaramaiah faction. Today, you have a situation, Mr. Yadav, where Siddaramaiah supporters are celebrating his birthday for a month long. DK Shiv Kumar's supporters are celebrating his birthday for a month long. There is simply no meeting of common interest between DK Shiv Kumar and Siddaramaiah, irrespective of what Rahul Gandhi says.
No, that is not the truth actually. Siddaramaiah was the former chief minister of the state who was given a fantastic program to the Karnataka state, which is given a stable government for 5 years after Devaraj Aras is the only chief minister who has given 5 years of stable administration in Karnataka government. He is a man who kept up the promises of whatever given in the manifesto of 165 promises was kept up completely.
Sir, then why are your party members who owe allegiance to DK Shiv Kumar not accepting that?
Let me complete. No, please, I want 36. No, let me complete it, sir. I am coming to that point. Why is these people are celebrating? It is not the program conducted under the forum of a party. It is conducted by the people who really loved him so much here, and they are happy to celebrate his birthday because 75th year is a landmark of anybody's life, and it should not be looked at in a political angle. It should not be looked at
Mr. Yadav, 75th year is as much a landmark as 60th year is. But your leader, Mr. Rahul Gandhi, said, I'm not saying this. Mr. Rahul Gandhi said that we should bury our differences. Most important priority should be to displace the BJP from power.
No, that is very
But Mr. Siddaramaiah at 75 and Mr. DK Shiv Kumar at 60 and their supporters don't seem to be able to come to the same page on this.
See, No. Please do not look at political angle into it. Rahul Gandhi says in the interest of the state, and the two leaders are really veterans of Karnataka state. He is definitely sure that both have to go together, and definitely they are going together with the advice of this Rahul Gandhi. No
Mohan
doubt
Krishna,
about it.
Final word, 30 seconds.
Like
I have to wrap up.
People are just
Mohan
trying to
Krishna
find a
for the final word.
No.
Thank you.
I have to finish it up
Thank you,
now.
sir. Thank you, Mr. Yadav. Thank you.
Government is
Mohan Krishna, 30 seconds. Thank you. Yeah.
Zaka, it is very evident from two things today. The resentment of the people in his own constituency, the former chief minister got it today. That's one thing. Second thing, the infighting of the Congress leaders today, Mr. DK Shiv Kumar and Mr. Siddaramaiah, the former chief minister, is openly available to all the people in the country and to the world.
Okay.
What this shows exactly is the lack of leadership at the top. Today, we at the BJP, we have a clear-cut leadership policy and we follow very strictly. And if any mistakes are there, we are ready to apologize with the people.
Okay.
And we go with the sentiments of the people.
Okay, I'm going to
Look
wrap
at the
up. I'm
audacity of
completely
the
out of
Congress
time.
people.
Mr. Mohan Krishna,
Despite-
Mr. Yadav, thank you very much. We'll be in touch with you through the course of the next year or so before Karnataka goes to the polls in the next 6 to 8 months. But I want to talk about a country that has been through hell and back, Sri Lanka, and the Prime Minister there, Ranil Wickremesinghe, who's now the interim president. He's been sworn in as the interim head of the other nation. Speculation is looming large over who will be the next Sri Lankan Prime Minister. The Parliament Speaker has said that the nominations for the presidential post will be called on the 19th of July and that elections for the next president will happen on the 20th. The main contenders are Ranil Wickremesinghe, opposition leader Sajith Premadasa. However, after taking over as the interim president, Ranil Wickremesinghe has issued two decisions. Number one, he has said that he is prohibiting the use of the term excellency to introduce the president, and he's also appointed top army officials in order to maintain law and order across the country. Meanwhile, the Sri Lankan Parliament will convene tomorrow to elect a consensus candidate to be the next Prime Minister. I want to go across to somebody who could likely become the next consensus candidate to be Prime Minister of the Sri Lankan Parliament. Sajith Premadasa is the leader of the SJP, the Opposition Alliance. Thank you very much, Mr. Premadasa, for speaking with us here on CNN News 18. One thing is official, that Gotabaya Rajapaksa has resigned. He is no longer the president of Sri Lanka. What is expected to happen next? Ranil Wickremesinghe has been sworn in as interim president. There's likely to be a president and a prime minister for the next 30 days. Are you one of the leading contenders, sir, to be the next prime minister of Sri Lanka?
Well, one has to understand the provisions of Sri Lanka's constitution, which prescribes that the process which will commence tomorrow after a special sitting of Parliament, that is for the selection of the President, which will happen next Wednesday after nominations are taken on Tuesday. So it's only after the President is appointed will we have the position of a formal Prime Minister and a government. Right now you have an acting President who is mandated with appointing an acting Prime Minister who should be a member of the present cabinet.
But Mr. Premadasa, why do you believe that you have the requisite support of members of parliament to be the next president of Sri Lanka? After all, you represent an opposition alliance, and in the current parliament in Sri Lanka, the SLPP, which is the ruling party of the Rajapaksas, has more than a two-thirds majority. So why do you believe that you have the support and that you will be elected as the next prime minister?
The next president of Sri Lanka will be chosen from the 225 members of parliament who were chosen in August 2020 under the leadership of the president who just fled the country. The president was elected in November 2019. He got 6.9 million votes. His party got 6.8 million votes in the ensuing general election in 2020. So the present composition of parliament is what you may call a Rajapaksa ideology dominated parliament.
Okay.
That's the composition of the present parliament. We, the opposition, are a small part of that in terms of composition. But still, we are the legitimate alternative government, and we are following constitutional procedures, which is the only methodology of expressing our ideas, our views, and our forward path for the country.
Okay, but
in
Mr.
reality, what should happen
I want to ask you
is-
one thing. How soon do you see this happening? Because some are saying that it cannot happen before February of 2023. And what is the confidence that you have that even after the elections that are going to take place, that your party or your alliance, the SJP, would emerge as the front runner as and when those elections happen?
Our party is SJB, and we have an alliance, SJB alliance. This is the main opposition party, and right now what you have is a skewed representation. Parliamentary representation is lopsided. It does not reflect the aspirations of the people of the country, because today the Rajapaksa ideology is a failed ideology.
Okay.
We have a failed, bankrupt state and country because of the Rajapaksa ideology. So the majority that was attained in 2020 will be deciding on the future presidency.
All right.
That's
Mr.
the course of action
Sajith
that's going to take place.
likely the next Prime Minister of Sri Lanka. Thank you very much for speaking with us here on CNN News 18. Thank you for your time. We'll take a quick break here on the program. On the other side, all the information relating to the Prime Minister's visit to Bundelkhand tomorrow, where he will be inaugurating almost 300 kilometers of the Bundelkhand Expressway. We'll have details of that and more right on the other side.